The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy casualties, but the guerrillas had more losses. Meanwhile, Obiora, a man raised by the wild, knew the terrain better than the villagers. With a final strategic trick, the guerrillas staged a retreat. They lured the warriors deeper into the jungle, where they became more vulnerable with every step. And in an epic twist of fate, the tides changed in favor of the guerrillas. Obiora guided his guerrillas through the thick trees, taking down as much men as they could. As the fight raged on, Obina's forces began to tire. The dense jungle, the guerrillas' agility, and Obiora's leadership were more than they had anticipated. He had underestimated the Jungle Boy's strength. Yet Obina refused to admit defeat. Consumed by pride, he called for a final push, rallying his men with prospect of glory and victory. But as he looked at Obiora, he saw not just a jungle boy, but what looked like his own image hidden in the teenager. He was fighting hard with his club held firmly in his hand. A warrior of nature, and a figure of awe and terror with the strength of a gorilla. Obiora moved like lightning through the chaos. His club a blur as he fought to defend the jungle. Yet Obina's eyes narrowed, with rage boiling inside him. And he was not ready to lose. With that, Obina lunged forward, and they both clashed in a furious battle that shook the jungle itself. Obina's spear was met with Obiora's club, and fists swung. Their strength and skills were tested to the limit. Obiora, who was fighting to protect his guerrillas, didn't know he was fighting his own elder brother. But Prince Obina, fueled by bitterness and ambition, was relentless. He struck with deadly intent. Each move aimed to bring the jungle boy down. But as their clash grew fiercer, he began to falter, with his movements slowing. Rage and resentment had blinded and weakened him. While Obiora, driven by the power of his ancestors, fought with the strength of one who defended his home. At last, Obina made a reckless move, lunging forward with all his strength. But Obiora sidestepped, and Obina fell to the ground, exhausted and defeated. Obiora stood over him, his heart heavy with sadness. He raised his club to strike Obina and end the war once and for all. But for a moment, he gazed into Obina's eyes and saw a reflection of himself. In a dramatic turn of events, he stepped aside and spared Obina's life. Obina stood up and fled, ordering his men to retreat. It became clear to him that this was no ordinary conflict. The villagers fought bravely, but they were outmatched by the cunning tactics and raw strength of the guerrilla troop. One by one, the men fell. Their cries echoed through the jungle as they were dragged away or thrown back by the force of the guerrilla blows. But at the long-awaited command from Obina, those who remained dropped their weapons and fled, defeated and terrified. As they fled once again, Obiora stood tall, watching the much depleted army retreat. He was victorious for the second time, but for some reason, he wasn't feeling happy. Though they had rejected him, he held no hatred for them and had no desire to see them suffer. Back in the kingdom, the news of their defeat spread like wildfire. Families mourned the dead, and a profound sense of shock settled over the village. The people could not understand how mere beasts had defeated their bravest warriors. As the village elders reconvened, their minds turned from thoughts of revenge to a greater question. What force could have possibly empowered these creatures to fight with such skill and precision? The answer they seek could only lie with the gods. The defeat had shaken the kingdom to its core. Rumors and fears spiraled out of control as villagers whispered tales of the jungle beast that fought with human-like intelligence. In desperation, the village elders, now sober and wary, gathered at the sacred Agbra shrine, a place where the spirits of ancestors and gods were believed to dwell. They arrived just before dusk. They were dressed in solemn white wrappers, with red beads adorning their necks and wrists, a symbol of their connection to the divine. The shrine, a simple clay hut with chalk drawings on the wall and surrounded by stone carvings, was nestled among ancient Iroko trees. As the sky deepened into twilight, the elders prepared for a ritual to seek the guidance of the gods. Chukudi, the wise elder, stepped forward. With the help of Ogwogu, the village priest, he scattered a white chalk called Nzo around the shrine, calling upon the spirits of the ancestors. The other elders chanted softly, their voices carrying through the cool night air. The priest, adorned in his sacred leopard skin headdress, began to invoke their supreme deity called Chi, the powerful gods of the earth and forest. Suddenly, the flames of the shrine torches flickered and danced wildly, as if caught by an unseen wind. The air grew thick with a powerful presence, and the elders who were present felt a shiver ripple through them. In a trance-like state, Obwogo's voice took on a deep, resonant tone, seemingly guided by a power beyond his own. "People of Umuchi." He spoke, his voice echoing as though the gods themselves were speaking through him. "You have fought this war and lost because you fought against your own blood. You fought against the son of your king, the child you abandoned to the wild." Gasps of disbelief and shock rippled through the elders, and many fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the revelation. Back in the village, whispers filled the air as the villagers tried to understand what they had just heard from the elders. Obiora, the jungle boy, the one who had led the beast against them, was none other than their own long-lost prince. The child who had disappeared so many years ago. As the truth sank in, the villagers looked at one another, their faces etched with regret. But it was Oge, the king's second wife, who felt the weight of guilt. It was like a stone pressing down on her heart. Her secret was laid bare, and there was no escape. She fell to her knees before the elders, her face streaked with tears. I did it," she stammered, her voice choked with sorrow. "I cast him out into the jungle. I feared he would take the throne from my son. It was my jealousy, my wickedness. I thought he was gone forever." A heavy silence settled over the village square as her confession echoed through the crowd. The villagers looked at her in horror. Some turned away, ashamed of how they had turned a blind eye to the prince's disappearance. The aging king, who had been listening from the steps of his palace, arose, his face pale with shock and grief. The betrayal, hidden for so long, pierced him deeply. But now, the kingdom faced a greater challenge: how to make amends with the prince they had wronged. A council was held, and after much deliberation, it was decided that a delegation of elders, led by Chief Chukudi himself, would venture into the jungle to find Obiora, to beg for his forgiveness and urge him to return to the kingdom. Days later, the delegation departed, their bodies draped in humble white garments as a sign of peace. They carried offerings of kola nuts, palm wine, and animal skins. The traditional gifts to appease a wrong spirit. They slowly made their way into the jungle, their hearts pounding with fear and hope as they ventured deeper into the unknown. In the heart of the jungle, Obiora sensed their approach. From his perch, high above the ground, he observed the elders with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. His gorilla family stared restlessly around him, but he calmed them with a gesture, signaling that these humans were not a threat. Stepping out from the shadows, Obiora revealed himself. Standing tall and powerful, with the markings of his life in the wild evident in his scars and his animal skin clothing. His face was expressionless as he regarded the people who had come to seek him. The elders, seeing their son for the first time since he had been a baby, felt tears welling up in their eyes. "Obiora, our son," Chief Chokudi said, his voice breaking. "We have wronged you, and we come seeking your forgiveness. Your stepmother, our queen, betrayed you. But your people need you. We need you, Obiora. Please, return home to your kingdom." Obiora's heart was heavy with sorrow. He looked at the faces of the elders, the remorse in their eyes, and Chief Chokudi's grief. He felt the weight of their pleas, the pull of a life that could have been his. Yet he also felt the eyes of his gorilla family upon him. The creatures who had nurtured and protected him, who had taught him the ways of the jungle. He was torn between two words. After a long silence, he spoke. "You cast me away," he said, his voice low and steady. "I was nursed by the gorillas, raised by the jungle, and it is here that I became strong. I love them dearly and don't wish to leave. But I see now that my place is also with you, my people. I will return, not out of vengeance, but to bring peace between the jungle and the kingdom." The elders bowed their heads in gratitude, relief washing over them. Chief Chokudi placed his hand on Obiora's shoulder, a gesture of both gratitude and acknowledgement. They returned to the village with Obiora at their side, and his presence filled the people with awe. They knelt before him, chanting his name and acknowledging him as both jungle warrior and rightful prince. The day of his coronation was one of celebration and joy. Obiora stood before his people, wearing the traditional crown and robe of an Igbo king, his face adorned with the marks of his jungle life. He raised his hand, calling for silence as he addressed the kingdom. "I have seen the world of the jungle, where beasts live in harmony with the earth. Now I will live among you, my people. I will protect this kingdom as I protected the jungle. From this day forward, we shall live together as humans and nature in balance, never taking more than we need." The people cheered, their voices carrying through the valley, signaling a new era. Obiora forgave his stepmother. She was about to be banished from the kingdom by the elders, but Obiora brought her back to the kingdom. Obina, his stepbrother, willingly relinquished his claim to the throne, recognizing Obiora's strength and wisdom as the true leadership their people needed. Under Obiora's rule, the kingdom prospered. The jungle and the village coexisted in harmony, their lives interwoven with respect and gratitude for the world around them. The prince who had been lost to the wild had returned, not only as a king, but as a bridge between two worlds.